have, sorry, website, but you will receive, I'm sure, a link after the meeting. So the registered participants, they will receive a link and it will be also openly shared on the website. So you can also listen in again or rewatch the recording. And I would just want to kick off the meeting with some statistics for your information before I give the floor to our great speakers. So all in all, there are 287,000 registrations as evaluators. This sounds a really big number. But I can also tell you that there have been already 76,500 experts contracted. So more or less 25% of these registered experts have been selected at least once, but many of them are selected more than once. And I also had a look at the statistics from the Western Balkans. And I can say that in some cases, the selection rate is very high, like in the case of Serbia. And I was also happy to see that in all of the countries, there are some registered participants. But in some cases, this number is very low. So I still encourage you to register because as our colleague will introduce this, there are criteria that we really have to rotate these evaluators. And we also here have to have a look at the geographical balance. So you really have a good chance if you fill in your profile properly. So just some housekeeping rules before we start. I think all of you were muted by my dear colleagues automatically, but please stay muted because there are too many of us for speaking at the same time. We are happy to see your faces. If you experience some connection problems, then it might help if you switch off your camera, but we are really happy to see you, so that's up to you. Then we would like to ask you to ask your questions in the chat. So I will be following the chat as a moderator, and also my colleagues will help me if I don't see something very relevant. And we will have a specific session after the first presentations for Q&A. And after that, when we have the kind of the panel part, then it will be me who will also just integrate the questions in the discussion. So you can really ask your questions all along the meeting. And as I said already, so the meeting is recorded, so you can also re-watch it anytime after this day. So after this, our first speaker is a very experienced colleague from RTD, and he's Alberto Fraile Ramos, who works at the Common Implementation Center in the DG for Research and Innovation. So we are close colleagues with Alberto. And he's focusing on the implementation of R&I framework programs and in particular on experts. So Alberto brings over 2 decades of international experience in academia, policy development, and project management, having lectured at Complutense University of Madrid and collaborated globally on research projects. So I'm sure we will learn a lot from Alberto's presentation, and I give you now the floor, Alberto, so please share your slides and your knowledge with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Agota. I'm going to start sharing. Okay.
It's coming. Yes, we see it. It's just not in presentation mode, but we see it. Yes, perfect.
Okay. It's okay?
Yes, we see it perfectly well.
Okay. Okay, Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your interest in discovering how to become an expert for Horizon Europe. As Agota said, my name is Alberto Fraile Ramos, and I work at the Common Implementation Center at the DG for Research and Innovation. And I would like to begin by discussing the types of experts that we need at the European Commission. There are three types of tasks that experts can carry out, and therefore three main types of experts. Evaluators, who assist in the various stages of the evaluation of proposals. Monitors, who assist in the follow-up of the implementation of EU funding projects and contracts. And other types of experts who assist with more in-depth expertise in specific areas. For example, policy experts assist the Commission with the implementation, the evaluation, or the design of the EU funding programs. Let's now look into the call for expression of interest. Experts respond to a call of expression of interest. For experts, this call for expression of interest is announced in the portal, in the Work as an Expert page. This call for expression of interest is for the current multi-annual framework and applies to all programs that use the funding and tender portal. You can be selected to work as an expert for any EU funding program such as Horizon Europe. And you can register in the EU experts database at any time via the portal. Though you don't need to upload documents to register, there are minimum requirements for setting up an expert profile, as shown on the slide. And it's essential to list all relevant keywords that describe your expertise. As we will see later, the main selection criterion is a high level of expertise and knowledge. So please register any expertise you have. When we need experts for evaluations, monitor, or advice on specific issues, we select from the database the expertise that we need. We will contact you if you are available to participate in the evaluation of the proposals, the monitoring of the projects, or for providing advice, and we make contracts with the selected experts. And you will conduct most of your work remotely. Let's move to the expert selection process and the rotation rules. What are our criteria for selecting experts? They depend on the task. All experts are chosen based on a high level of skills, experience, and knowledge appropriate for assigned tasks. For evaluators, the skills, the experience, and knowledge in the areas of the call. And all experts are chosen based on the absence of any conflict of interest. If these conditions that I told you are met, we aim for a balanced composition considering experience, geographical diversity, and gender. For Horizon Europe, the goal that we have is 50% gender parity in evaluation committees. And also, when appropriate, a balance between the private and the public sector experts. We ensure the rotation of experts to incentivize the participation of new experts to enhance the knowledge of the programs, to encourage expert participation from all member states, especially from widening countries, to prevent closed clubs in the evaluations, and to apply equal treatment to all experts who answer the call for expression of interest. And how do we ensure rotation? Two reimbursement thresholds exist. First, an expert cannot be paid over 90,000 euros during a period of 4 consecutive calendar years by any commission service or agency for any funding program. And here in this first threshold, we exclude allowances and travel costs. And second, individual contracts must be under 140,000 euros, which is the procurement threshold. Another approach to ensure rotation is including at least 25% of newcomer experts. These are experts who, for a particular call in Horizon Europe, have not been contracted for Horizon Europe in the previous 3 years. For example, an expert who participated in the evaluation 4 years ago but has not worked for Horizon Europe in the last 3 years is considered a newcomer. And we strive to include brand new experts who have never been contracted for the research and innovation framework programs, meaning that have not worked for Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020, and FP7. That is the data that we have in our system. For example, an expert who participated in the evaluation of proposals for EU for Health program but has never evaluated proposals for Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020, or FP7 is considered a brand new expert. Let's see now the Horizon Europe evaluation process and what is the work that you will carry out as an evaluator. Proposals are evaluated on evaluation criteria, and we have 3 evaluation criteria: excellent, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. For the European Research Council, we only have one evaluation criterion, that is excellent. And if there are changes to these standard criteria, these are clearly stated in the topic description. The standard evaluation process comprises 4 phases, but certain cases may deviate from this standard. The 4 phases are individual evaluation. Experts assess proposals individually and aware of the identity of the others evaluating the same proposal. Each proposal should have a minimum of 3 expert evaluations. Then we have the consensus group phase. Experts who assessed a proposal discuss and agree on a common position. When the consensus phase for all proposals submitted to a call is finished, we put together all experts evaluating proposals in that call and ask them to reach an agreement on comments and on scores. This is the panel review phase. During this phase, we also resolve issues where consensus wasn't met previously, and the panel also ranked proposals that received the same score. And the last phase is the finalization. The European Commission or executive agencies conclude with a final ranking of proposal, respecting always the ranking of the experts. I need to say that the individual evaluation is remote, and we remunerate based on the type and complexity of the proposals, and this individual evaluation usually takes 2 to 3 weeks. The consensus group and panel review phases can be remote or in Brussels and last about a week. And for this, we will require your full availability with a payment of 450 euros per full day. Let's dive deeper into what expert works involved during the evaluation process. During the individual evaluation, evaluators will complete an individual evaluation report. For this, the experts evaluators read and evaluate each proposal as submitted against the evaluation criteria. If they identify shortcomings, they give a lower score for the relevant criterion. They provide comments and scores for all evaluation criteria, and the scores must match the comments. And they should explain shortcomings, but they do not make recommendations. What happens during the consensus group phase? The consensus involves a discussion based on the individual evaluations. The objective is to find an agreement on comments and scores. During the consensus meetings, we ask evaluators to explore carefully outlying opinions because they might be as valid as the other opinions. Evaluators should have an open mind. During the consensus, individual views might change. This consensus group phase is moderated by EU staff or, in some cases, by an expert, who must remain neutral and manage the evaluation, keeping the confidentiality, the objectivity, the accuracy, and the fairness of the evaluation process. The moderators ensure that all voices are heard and all points are discussed. We normally appoint rapporteurs in this consensus phase, and they are responsible for drafting the consensus report, including consensus comments and scores. Now let's talk about the panel review process. The panel review typically includes all experts from the consensus group, and there is the possibility to add new experts to this phase. The panel review makes sure that the comments and score given at the consensus phase are consistent for all proposals within the call, resolves disagreements from the consensus phase, endorses final comments and scores for each proposals, recommends a list of proposals in priority orders, and ranks equally scored proposals. In some occasions, the panel review participates in hearing or interviews when applicants are invited to present their proposals. This is the case for calls of the some calls of the European Research Council and the European Innovation Council. And although the bulk of contracts that we make are for evaluators, we also contract experts to monitors or to providing advice. And let's briefly explore the role of the experts monitors. Monitors are crucial for overseeing projects implementations and may handle project reviews and progress meetings, prepare midterm and final reports, and supervise long-term initiatives like business innovations. In particular, project reviewers target several main areas. They monitor the delivery of project outputs, review the ongoing relevance of project goals, assess how resources are allocated and used, ensure compliance with principles of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, examine the management process and techniques applied, evaluate also beneficiaries' involvement and input within the project, and assess the potential impact of the project. They also examine strategies for results utilization and dissemination. And let's move on to discuss other types of experts. Different specialized experts, such as those on ethics, gender, finance, and policy, bring a more focused expertise. For example, policy experts support in expert groups helping the Commission in implementing, evaluating, or designing EU funding programs. Also, these policy experts analyze the current context, reasons, and objectives, or propose improvements for the implementation of existing or for new programs. Let's finish with further details. Additional information is accessible on the Work as an Expert page of the Funding and Tender portal. There you will find the call for expression of interest and an IT guide to help with the registration process. As mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, registration is open at any time and is available to experts from all countries. And we provide also briefing slides for evaluating Horizon Europe proposals and short videos covering relevant policy consideration that you will need to evaluate. And if you have not registered, we warmly invite you to do so. In addition, if you have questions about EU research funding programs, you can contact the Research Enquiry Service. Thank you for your attention, and I stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Alberto. In the meantime, I immediately start my reactions, if you don't mind. So I was happy that you mentioned on the last slide, actually, that it's open for any countries, because I think on one slide it was that mentioned that member states, but it's definitely not only member states. I also mentioned at the very beginning that also countries from the region are often contracted, so they are of course very welcome. So it's not only for member states, this evaluator task. Then I could see a very interesting question, because I also know that there are usually then differences in what fields do you have a lot of experts in a way. So what are those kind of expertise which is most needed these days? Because I also know usually there is a problem with the gender balance, so there are usually less women in the database, and you try to reach this balance. But what are those fields where you really need more experts lately?
Hmm. Well, I think that, as you said at the beginning of the presentation, we have over 250,000 experts in our database. Then, in general, we don't miss any expertise. But having said this, it's true that for some top-down goals in each areas, maybe we have a challenge, and the expert availability is limited. Also because for these goals, many experts apply for proposals, then the
Mm-hmm.
availability to evaluate the proposal is limited. In these cases, we can consult other databases, and then we can invite the expert to register in the European Commission database to evaluate these kind of proposals. So
Can mention some such topics which are usually a bit more complicated to
Yes,
find experts?
these are the top-down calls. Calls, for example, in emerging technologies, maybe we have
Mm-hmm.
difficulties, and then we try to, if we don't have them in the database, we contact them. Is the kind of call for other,
Mm-hmm.
but normally, as I said, we don't miss expertise because we have
It's a huge pool.
is a huge pool of experts that we can consult in the database and select from. I think that the number of registered experts in the database is a little bit lower women than men, but it's quite close. And as I said, during the
Mm-hmm.
selection criteria,
Mm-hmm.
we need to keep the gender balance, not only in the expert that we select, but also in the expert that we contract. And we always aim for this 50% gender balance.
And what for the geographical balance? Do you also
Yes.
aim at that?
Mhm.
So you also try to include countries from
Yes,
various
yes, yes,
regions?
yes. We also try to aim for this geographical balance, distribution,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have countries that are overrepresented in the
Mm-hmm.
selections panels. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
This is
So
one
this
of our
also
selection
increases your
criteria.
chances, of
Yes,
course. So
exactly, exactly.
then you also mentioned the remuneration that you pay 150 per day for this consensus meeting, etc. And how do you pay for the individual meeting, just to have an idea for the colleagues?
Yeah, you mean for the individual report, for the in
Yes,
general for the
yes.
remote work? For the remote work, we pay per activity. We remunerate per
Mm-hmm.
activity that the expert carry out. And as I said, depending of the complexity of the proposals, we pay differently. For example, if the proposals are very complex, we pay a higher amount. We don't pay the same, for
Mm-hmm.
example, for an activity. Drafting the individual evaluation report. If the proposals are more complex, we pay more for this activity than if the proposals are more simple. For example,
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
very simple proposals with only 30 pages, like the CSAs, we pay less
Mm-hmm.
than for more complex proposals.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there are different rules for
Yes.
that. Then there was also a question arriving about the type of and length of contract, and I think it means that because you usually just contract someone from one call, so it's or does it happen that you contract a person for, let's say, a longer period? It doesn't happen. No, it's always really linked to one call, and maybe under the call there are more proposals, but it's still just based on one call.
No, okay. Normally is we contract the expert to evaluate a call, but it's
Mm-hmm.
possible that a call coordinator that manages, for example, 3 calls, um,
Mm-hmm.
contract issue contract and put in the same pool expert to evaluate these 3 calls. Okay, then
I see.
a expert can
Mm-hmm.
receive a contract to evaluate different calls, and later the expert is going to be assigned proposals for one or for the different calls.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
I
but
don't know
it's
if
so I just believe maybe the question needs to be clarified, or if you don't respond properly, please follow it up in the chat. But it's not that we somehow contract someone for half a year or for a year. It's not a job. It's really something temporary, and it's
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, yes, it's something that is temporary. It's not for a job. Of course, we understand that the expert has other jobs and their time is limited. We always contact the expert first to check the availability if they are if they are available to carry out the work. And as say,
Mhm.
the expert needs to take into account that, for example, for the individual evaluation, we will give you to 3 months to complete the evaluations since the moment that the call is closed until we come to the consensus and the panel review. And for the when you need to come to Brussels, we need you available at least for a week. But we always tell you this in advance to check if you are available. But of course, it's not a job. We make a contract to carry out a certain task. You will need to comply with the timing that we will tell you. You will deliver reports in a certain time. This will be explicit in the contract, and but. No, you will carry out certain tasks in a period of time, but it's not a job. No.
Yeah, and
I don't know if
I
I
think you
answered the
also
question,
yes.
but
Hmm?
and I don't know if I answered the question. Maybe the person that put it, I don't know if we can open the micro. If is correct, is still
Did we respond to your
yes,
question?
yes. I don't know.
It's clear. Okay, then
Okay,
yes. But
okay.
I think you also had one more question on filling in this form. That if the form or the template more or less says that it's filled in 100%, then you submit. Then
Yes.
is there any other task on the side of the potential evaluator, or it will be then validated by the commission or a executive agency, but then there is nothing much to do afterwards. So if you, but as far as I know, you can always edit your profile. So you can add new skills if you have something, you have studied something new, or etc., or you have some new experience, you can always complete the form.
Yes. When you finish the registration process, it will tell you that is 100% complete, and then at that moment you don't need to do anything else. Okay, then your profile is going to be visible when the call coordinators search for the experts, and they will contact you. Okay, and if you are selected, and you are going to sign the contract, we will ask you for more details like you will need to validate the legal entity and bank account. But you need to wait until you are selected to follow the next step. But as you said, Agota, it's very important to keep updated the profile. Okay, don't just register and for years don't update, because we often see that when we are searching for expert and then we compare the information that you provided in your profile with external sources, that is not updated, and we will ask you to update your profile. Then it's always good to update your profile. Okay, as you said, if you have more professional experience or you have other publications or qualifications, it's important that you keep your profile update. And you can update your profile at any time in the portal.
Yes, thank you. I received a new question, actually. Yes, okay. Then Milos is satisfied with the responses. And then how many proposals are usually assigned per expert per call? Because
Yes,
then also, of course, it helps you to calculate the time you might need.
yes, sure, sure. It's a very interesting question, and depends of the call. But for example, we expect that an expert will evaluate around 10 proposals in the call.
So that's the average, more
Yes,
or
this is the
less.
average. Hmm.
Okay, so then it's quite some. So these some are really long proposals, and you see that they use the smallest letter type possible. So usually applicants really fill the proposals with content. So it's quite some reading because longer proposals are. Is it still the maximum is 50 pages?
45 pages. Hmm.
45 pages.
Normally, it's
So then
45 pages. Hmm.
it's a long reading, but and
Yes.
you really have to, because now I managed to attend some evaluations, and it's very important that, and it was also mentioned by you, Alberto, that the score should reflect how you describe what was missing or what was a minor shortcoming or a major shortcoming. And you really have to agree about this. So you have to learn also, I think, how to be a good evaluator, but for that you have to do it, of course. Um, do you maybe have an idea? Is there something, a similar program like Horizon, where it's a bit more easy to start in a way? Do you have any idea about that so that people can have some experience with evaluating?
You mean in other programs that is not Horizon? I got that.
Like,
No.
let's say, like you said
Mm,
that, for example, the health program
ye-
we have, or Digital
mm,
Europe, or is there,
mm.
or the more or less it's the same amount of evaluators everywhere?
I think that they are the same amount everywhere. And as I said, when you register to be available evaluator for any program. Then
Okay,
depends
okay.
of the programs. The other programs, not Horizon, can contact you, and then but. I don't know the details about the evaluation process for other programs.
For others, no, okay,
And
okay.
I don't know the evaluation criteria. I know for Horizon, then I cannot answer this question. But for sure, you can be contacted if you are in the database. You can be contacted to evaluate proposals for EU for health, if you are an expert in health, or for
Mm-hmm.
Erasmus, Creative Europe. I mean, all the EU funding programs that needs evaluators take the evaluators from the same database.
There is another question. You mentioned this monitoring assignment. So,
Mm.
what is the usual length for the monitoring assignments?
Yes, this is less than the evaluation of proposals, and you will need to uh, mm, evaluate and assess the deliverables, and then in some of the cases also you will need to meet the project members, but it's much less. I will need to check exactly what is the length, but it's not the same as in the evaluation for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And maybe a final question, a bit of a looking into the future, do you expect radical changes under the next framework program? Or if somebody now registers, more or less it's a safe path into FP10, and then they can also be selected in the future?
Hmm. What I can say is that the call of expression of interest is valid for this MFF. And
Mm-hmm.
when we change to the next MFF, we will contact all the experts that are registered in the database, and we will ask them to express their interest to continue being in the expert database. Then we
Ah,
will
okay.
contact them. Mhm.
Uh-huh,
When we
okay. And
change the
then if there is
MFS,
any new requirement, then they will have the
yes.
opportunity just to add one bullet point on. Don't
Exactly,
know what, but
exactly. If there are changes, they will be aware and we will ask. Mhm.
very nice. So I think it's a nice perspective because we don't have many years to come in under the
Yes.
current program, but it's still worth the effort because most likely you can just continue then under FP10. So I think, Alberto, this was now very round and a full picture, I hope. So thank you so much for your presentation and for all these responses that we received for the questions. And now then we move on
Thank
to
you.
the practical part. Thank you, Alberto, because we have also four ladies from the region, and they will speak about their experience, how they evaluated the projects already, and what they learned from this whole process. So the first speaker is Frozina Miowska, who is a startup engagement and business support organization sustainability advisor with GIZ. She has over 10 years of working experience with ecosystem development in the Western Balkans and Eastern Europe. She has been an evaluator with the European Commission for over 3 years and still continues in this role. So I have some questions for you, Frozina. So why did you register as a project evaluator? What benefits did you expect from becoming an evaluator? And after being selected as an evaluator, your experience was in line with your expectations.
Thank you,
And
Agata. Good morning to everyone. So, why did I register? Yes, that's an interesting question. I saw a unique opportunity to engage directly with the funding ecosystem and to gain firsthand insight into how high quality proposals were developed, assessed, and selected. But mainly, I was more excited to be exposed to a broad network of peers across Europe. So anyone from the academia, industry, and the public sector, and really get the chance to learn from them. Because when you are evaluating, there are so many experts, and everyone has varying types of experience in every sector. And when you have the panel discussions as well, it's very interesting because everyone comes from their expertise and you get to learn a lot. Then obviously the other point was like an insider view of the state of art. So I work with ecosystem development and startups, and it's very inspiring to see how the proposals are elevating the game every time when you're evaluating. So that is also something to learn that I also use that knowledge in my line of work. So if I see that there is a latest study that I haven't seen and then I read it about it in the proposal, I immediately check the study afterwards. If there is a different type of approach, I'm also considering whether that type of approach could be potentially adapted to the Western Balkans as well. And then also, I really wanted to get a deeper understanding of the evaluation criteria and the logic behind the proposals, because in the past, I was one of the applicants for Horizon Europe in terms of from the other side. So I also wanted to see how is it also possible. And in terms
yeah,
of
sometimes I think there are really specific points that the evaluators are looking at. No, so for example, the gender perspective is very important, and sometimes you would believe that okay, this topic is not really it doesn't have a gender focus, but you shouldn't make this mistake. So you always have to address these horizontal priorities, I believe. And I don't know what was your experience while being in a panel.
Yes, it's very interesting, and also another topic that is not usually considered when you're applying. Did you say exploitation and dissemination of the results? Like sometimes you automatically assume that the evaluator will know how you're going to exploit the results of your project. It has happened to me, I'm going to be honest. But then as an evaluator, you're reading and it's a great idea, great results, great deliverables planned and everything else. But then when you see, okay, how this result will be exploited, how it's going to be sustainable, sometimes you're not seeing that. So it's a very overarching thing that you always have to take into consideration. And I believe also you asked me about how was my experience, whether it was in line with my expectations.
Yes.
I would say definitely it was in line. When I first came, I had the imposter syndrome. So I thought that I was a little bit overwhelmed with information, to be honest, because when you are selected, you go to a briefing. Briefing usually lasts 3 hours or 2.5 hours, really depends, and you go through all of the details of the call. And then afterwards, you are assigned the proposal and the proposals. So I have various experience. I had 10 proposals, I had 7 proposals, I had 3 proposals, 5 proposals. And then sometimes happens that a certain evaluator cannot do it, or there's a conflict of interest. So then you're asked if you can take over. And also you can be chosen as a rapporteur. But the plus side is that,
which is extra work then. So
yeah.
it's
but my main message is that there is support from the start to the finish. So you always have the call coordinators there for any questions that you may have. You have the help desk to support you if there's something wrong from the IT side. When you go into the panel discussions with the expert. There's also support in the sense that you can debate, you can talk about it, and then you can say, I'm not sure about this. It's also okay. So we've had panel discussions that lasted 3 hours. We had panel discussions that lasted 40 minutes because it really depends also the type of the opinions that you have. And it is a time commitment. So I also want to highlight this. It should not be rushed because essentially someone took a lot of time to create the one proposal. So there was a lot of effort into it. So you have to give the proper attention to it. And also we have to understand that these are public money so that they need to be allocated to the proper projects that will score high. I don't know if this
I can
answers the
see, sorry
question.
for the yeah,
Yeah.
it's perfectly fine, but you also mentioned conflict of interest, and actually I also wanted to ask still Alberto, maybe he can also complement what you say, because that's the official view, that how far can you still apply under Horizon if you evaluate? Maybe Alberto, you can respond to this about the conflict of interest, and there will be a very specific question for you then after that, Frosine.
Yes, okay. Yes, of course, you are not going to evaluate the proposals of that call, but you can apply to other calls. Then we check um, we take very seriously the conflict of interest, and we check, for example, the proposals with the expert CVs. And if we notice something, we make aware to this to the experts, and we always ask the expert if they have a conflict of interest when they receive the proposals. So yes, it's very important the conflict of interest, because this is the base of the credibility of all the evaluation process. But you can be an evaluator and apply to an evaluator for a call and still applying to other calls in Horizon Europe. This doesn't mean that you cannot apply to other calls in Horizon Europe.
Yes, that was very clear. Thank you, Alberto.
Welcome.
And you then also had this experience, apparently, Frosina. And
Yes.
somebody asked that what are your areas of expertise that were listed in the registration? I think this is very interesting because I also wanted to ask you something about how you filled in the evaluators form. So what would you recommend? How far you should be generic or very concrete? And we just had a pre-meeting, and you mentioned that you even experimented with this, so I think you can really give a good advice here.
If I can make a quick remark on the conflict of interest that I think from a
Please.
practical perspective could be useful for the participants. So within my position in GIZ, I work with a lot of partner organizations. And if I notice a partner organization that I have worked even in the past 5 years with, I declare a conflict of interest to the colleagues from the Commission because I really don't want to be involved or have a say into that. And it's usually very straightforward, and everyone thanks me that I declared it. And you have to declare it because it's really a matter of transparency. You have to be very honest about it. And there is no shame in saying that there is a conflict of interest. It's just even easier afterwards, because sometimes, I mean, conflict of interest sounds a little bit scary when you say it like that, but it's just something to preserve the transparency of the entire process. And then with regards to the question, the areas of expertise in the registration, so we are talking about the portal, right?
Yeah, so when you fill in this expression of interest template.
Yes, so I usually go into the process of highlighting everything that it's related to ecosystem development, innovation management, and when you open the portal area where you have areas of expertise, you have entrepreneurship, education, business and management, business support services. So these are the things that I can think of for the time being. My advice is not to be very general. So what Agata was mentioning in our pre-meeting was that when I created my profile into the portal, I wasn't selected for 2 years, not even an availability survey. And mainly when I went back into it, I saw that I put very generic terms. So I put innovation, and I put business, and I put project management. So if you go a little bit in a cascading way in terms of the experience, and then also when you put the employment history. So the example I used in the meeting was that I have experience in project management. It's very general, right? But if you say I have led a 2 to 3 million euro project on ecosystem development and distributing startup grants, that's already very different. So it takes time, and I still, on every 6 months, I go in to review my profile just to double check if everything is up to date, or even add publications that I did or some other additional experience. And if I remember correctly, but please correct me if I'm wrong. When you scroll down, when you go into the portal, you fill everything in, and when you scroll down, there is who can see my profile. So you have here listed your institution's bodies, research funding bodies. I think this was something to that effect. Make sure that you check all of them, because I've also talked with other evaluators that forgot to check those checkboxes, and that also probably causes an issue. And then there is another part called additional information. And here you have experience in peer reviews and evaluations, I think. Experience in innovation projects or in industrial sector. I think there were this type of criteria here. So really try to fill in the portal as much as you can with your profile, with every experience that you have, because that also increases the chances of you getting noticed.
Thank you, Una. I think we have to move on to give some time to the others as well. But no, it was all very, very useful. So thank you for your insights. So our second panelist is Elona Xaferi, who is advisor for Horizon Europe at the EU for Innovation project, implemented again by GIZ, but in Albania. She has extensive experience in the development cooperation sector, in policy design and project management, in the sector of education technologies and R&I. Since 2012, she has participated as a local expert in numerous studies related to teacher education and training, technology transfer, EU integration in higher education and research, led by European Commission agencies. Currently, she's helping promote Horizon Europe and build the capacity of academic institutions, government agencies, startups, SMEs, and not-for-profit organizations to benefit from this program. And Elona, you were kind enough to volunteer that we have received some questions in advance, for example, about PhD requirements, and that you said that you would respond to this, and that how to show the skills and knowledge when applying. So please feel free to take the floor and start with these two questions.
Hi, Agoda. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. And I'd like also to especially thank you, DGRTD and Policy Answers, for having this webinar, for paying attention to Horizon Europe evaluation and why Western Balkans expertise matter. I think this is, for me, it's like the first, honestly, event that I've been attending. I'm really happy. It's very thoughtful from your side. So concerning the two questions, I believe no, you don't necessarily need a PhD to be an expert evaluator. I mean, unless for very specific calls like Mr. Ramos mentioned, like, I don't know, maybe in deep tech, when like very, very specific, highly advanced skills are required, and maybe that would give you, let's say, a leverage or the upper hand in being selected, but there is no prerequisite for an evaluator to have a PhD to be one. And the other second question, how to show our skills and knowledge when we are applying, I think it matches very well with what my dear fellow colleague Christina mentioned in the areas of expertise in the dashboard. It's very important to be as specific as possible and to highlight exactly the competencies, the skills according to the categories that you possess and that you have. It's even in the CV, there is very little space you cannot really put a job description. So it's a very little space how much information you can put. So it's very important to use the right keywords in describing your job title, your job position. Ideally, if you have publication, you should include it. I have been in the portal registered for many, many years. And I only got selected the moment I uploaded a few studies that you, Agota, mentioned, related again to skills, technology transfer, and the moment I was directly involved with Horizon Europe. So I saw immediately a shift, and I was invited by the executive agency to do evaluation of Horizon Europe proposals.
And Elona, you train also a lot. So do you use the skills you learn under this evaluation task when training the potential applicants?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Agota, for this question, because it has helped me so much. Right now, I'm working, as you mentioned, as advisor for Horizon Europe for Youth for Innovation project, which is one of the largest donors is the European Commission of this project. And we do a lot of info sessions on Horizon Europe. And we also, with the help of our international experts and local experts, we do training on how to write a proposal in Horizon Europe. And being myself an expert evaluator has definitely given me the expertise at a completely other level, where I understand now proposals from the other side, from the evaluation side. So I believe that being an expert evaluator, it definitely builds capacities and know-how. You bring back insight into how proposals should be crafting. It helps you to elevate the overall quality of research proposals, and it definitely it is very helpful for the institutions applying. I really try to transfer the knowledge that I have gained through this process to universities, to startups, to companies, to non-for-profit organizations, to public agencies, which are also responsible for promoting the program, in order, to just to help them be a little bit more competitive and more aware and more knowledgeable about the process.
And how far are they interested in becoming evaluators? Do you have any experience about that?
I think there is not so much information about that. And I think that's a good point, because I do have an online Horizon Europe info session coming up next week, and maybe I can just toss the question to the audience and just for them to be a little bit more aware.
Would be great.
Yeah.
You can also then share the link of this recorded event.
Absolutely, with pleasure. Unfortunately, there is not much information and awareness about that. I think majority do not even believe that Albanians can be expert evaluators. So they still think like you have to be from an EU member state.
Okay, so Frozina is nodding, so might be the similar situation. And I have another question about the conflict of interest. So again, I would ask Alberto, but if you have any comments, of course, colleagues, feel free. So if somebody is in a board of an organization, but was not participating in the preparation of the application, then can they evaluate? So is this a conflict of interest if you are in the same institution, but you were not part of the call preparation? You are muted, Alberto, somehow.
Okay.
Yes, now
it's here. Stay muted. Okay, I cannot say it.
No, now we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes. The This is a conflict of interest if you are employed or contracted by one of the entities involved in the proposals. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that was a clear response. Thank you so much. And now we go on because we will see that we want to really have that everyone has the floor. So the next lady is Anna Alexic Miric, who is a professor of organization and management at the University of Belgrade. So Serbia is, as I mentioned, is a good example in terms of participating evaluators from the region. So her academic focus includes organization design and change, leadership and organizational development. She has recently started working as a Horizon Europe evaluator, bringing a fresh perspective shaped by her experience in mentoring research projects and supporting institutional capacity building across the Western Balkans. And I would really want to learn a bit how you benefited from evaluating projects. What did you learn, Anna? And how could you use this experience in also other activities of yours?
Well, thank you, Agata. It is participate on this event, and as my colleague said, I initially registered as an expert with the European Commission for more than 10 years ago. Must admit,
Wow, okay. So that
for
was not fresh.
yeah, I registered, but for a long time I was not invited to join
Mm-hmm.
as a panelist. So I assumed that as my academic and my research credentials developed over time, my profile became more prominent, and I was
Mm-hmm.
eventually invited to serve as an evaluator. So. From that standpoint, I would encourage everyone to register and to improve profiles, as Christina said, and just not to consider it as something if they were not called at the first at the first batch that it is something that is wrong. No. So what I learned, what I expected is that I encounter a serious and professional managed process, and it was alike. I was not disappointed. The Horizon Europe staff showed remarkable professionalism, patience, and support throughout the process for us who were the fresh beginners in the evaluation process. And their instructions were always clear, and the submission portal itself is very intuitive, and it is very easy to navigate. So what I learned as a first is that you are going to be guided through a process, and you're going to get help and understanding. So these introductory briefing sessions are extremely useful. Yes, sometimes they are all day length, but they are very potent way to understand and to gain your capabilities in how to do credible and good review. But the staff is not here only in the briefing sessions. They are with you in the whole process. And when I got my first batch of proposals, I must admit that I was overwhelmed because I realized that they are very serious, that I have very good prepared proposals, and I needed to reject some of the assignments because I was not confident that I'm going to run for the first time good reviews for a large number of projects, and I met the understanding of the people who were assigned to work with me from the European Commission. They understood why I need to take only a few of these proposals that have been assigned to me. I have learned that I have learned a lot about the European research space and the topics that drive current academic and applied projects, and that the ways in which academia and practice collaborate across borders. And more of that, I gain a confidence, as Ilona said, I gained confidence and insight in how to write a good project and how to build the complete story. And then I think that I have also developed a sharp eye for the structure, for the logic,
Mm-hmm.
and the consistency in the proposal. And I learned how to recognize strong evidence based narrative. And also, as the process was going, I began to intuitively distinguish human-generated versus algorithm-generated.
Wow. Okay, the critical topic. Yeah.
And that was
Currently.
very important. And I saw that in our consensus meetings and the final evaluation panels, we also raised that questions about the use of artificial intelligence in projects writing and in projects evaluation, because it is the contemporary situation that we deal. And for me, it is very important to say that all the people involved are in this time present. Like, you are not asked to evaluate based on some past criteria and not to respect the current moment. So, and then I also let's say began to understand the difference between the proposals that were written by the actual consortium that is proposing, and to recognize those that were prepared by, let's say, professional consultancies or writers,
Ah.
which you can also
Mhm.
meet. So these are those two very a very important paradox of the today project writing. And then
Mhm.
it was
And what was
important
your
for me.
experience, by the way? Sorry to interrupt. That what was preferred by the evaluators? If it was really seen that it was properly written by a consortium, or did they prefer this professionally written by a project writing agency, or
Oh,
what was the?
mhm. I had three examples of the type, and one was the very high achiever, the project that I think that gained finance in the past call, and you could clearly see that it was written by the project team and that they were experienced in writing, and it was
Mm-hmm.
a superb project from the beginning. And then there was a concurrent one that also was a very good, but there was a doubt whether it was helped in a way with the professional writers, because there was no clear match between the experience of the stuff and the way it was written. So you could see, contrasting the experience of the consortia and the quality of the proposal or the way it was written, you could see that there is not a good fit, and it was obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And the third example, like that was the one that I find pity about. It was that the project was exceptionally authentic. It was clearly that it was written by a team that knew what they were doing. However, the way it was presented, it lacked the polish and sophistication
Ah.
of more experienced consortia. As a result, despite of the quality of the idea and the authenticity of the project, it was not in the top tier. And this was a powerful lesson on the importance of the presentation, and in addition to the substance. So you need to learn, and this is the opportunity for that.
Thank you. So more or less the message is that of course content is the most important part, but how you then sell the content, that might make these tiny differences, that will you rank first or second or third.
Exactly.
So yes, okay. Thank you so much. I could see a nice question, but before that, I move to our last lady, last but not least, to Alexandra Mileva. She's a full professor at Faculty of Computer Science, Goce Delcev, I might mispronounce everything, University in Stip, Macedonia, and head of laboratory for computer security and digital forensic at this university. She's also online visiting professor at the Vilnius University, Lithuania from 2022 till today. Her research interests include digital steganography, computer security, network protocols, industry of things protocols, and security or cryptography. So now we have someone from hard sciences, and I would more or less want to have you on the same subjects, because you really cover a bit of a different field. So what was your expression, or what was your experience when looking at these evaluations, and how could you benefit as a scientist from this whole exercise?
Okay, thank you, Agota, for inviting me here. It is really a pleasure to be here and share experience. I'm part of this expert database from 2014, and I
Okay.
had the luck to be selected immediately after I filled my my account. So I was maybe for 7 or 8 times evaluator for Horizon 2020, not for Horizon Europe. And also, I had an experience to be monitor for one project. So this is very beneficial for me because I saw from the first hand how evaluation process is ongoing. And this is very important if you want to write Horizon projects. So first, you need to be aware that maybe you are going to be the only technical person in the pool of the evaluators for the specific proposal. If there are 5 reviewers, maybe you will have one additional technical person. Some of them are usually lawyers, economists, practitioners from industry and similar. So you have different opinion regarding the proposal, and you need to be open for these opinions because at the end you need to reach the consensus about different things into the proposals.
But sorry to interrupt,
First
but
of
if
all,
you were really the science, so if you were from the same scientific field, were you listening? So were the other evaluators listening to you more,
for the
or what
technical
was?
part, yes, but when
Mhm.
the budget comes into the place or
Uh-huh.
implementation part, they do their things. So you need to be open also for what they think about the proposals, because when you
Mhm.
go to these consensus meetings, you see that you just observe part of the proposals. How to say, downside or positive side, and here you on the consensus meetings you observe, you see how other people from other areas comprehend these proposals, and you reach consensus at the end. But from scientific side of view, the benefit is because you have a direct view into the state of the art research and innovation, but also future
Mhm.
research and innovations,
Mhm.
because the selected proposals is what is going to be researched in the Europe in next 3 or 4 years. Also, you have a direct view of the main players in Europe, from industry, from SMEs, from RTOs organization and similar, that can be part of this kind of proposals that belong to the specific goal. You also have a look on European tools, software systems, which is also state of the art, and how they plan to continue to develop it. So you have a lots of beneficials. In the
Mhm.
past, when most of the consensus meetings were in person, also one benefit is networking, because I met lots of people. Some of them became my friends, some of them became my co-workers. So it is also beneficial from that point of view. And you learn how to write evaluation report, because there are some rules how you need to write them, how to express your opinion, but also to stay on the safe side, not to raise any complaints from the people that write the proposals. And at the end, you also learn how to better write your proposals for the horizon. So there are lots of benefits.
Lots of benefits. It's good to
Yes,
hear.
lots of benefits. I recommend this to everybody. Yes,
Ah,
and
that's
it's
very
well
nice.
paid
A
at
nice
the
message.
end.
I received a question before, and I don't know if any of you had this when you registered, that you didn't have a previous experience in project evaluation, because the question was that, do you have a chance that you will be selected even if you didn't have such a previous experience? Who could respond to this question?
I didn't have any previous experience.
Me as
Okay.
well.
Okay, so then this is definitely possible. Then I think we have a question on AI, and maybe again Alberto who might address this in the most suitable way. So as far as I know, currently you are of course allowed to use AI, but you have to somehow signal it in the application that you have used AI, but we as the Commission and the executive agencies, they don't use AI for pre-checking, or so we don't use AI during the evaluation at this stage, but correct me if I'm wrong.
You are right. We don't use AI, but the expert, if they use it, they need to say that they use it. Mhm.
Okay, so this is the case. And there is a
Sorry,
dedicated,
Agata?
yes,
Sorry. I can
yes,
just share experience on the AI. So
thank you.
when you receive the proposals, these are confidential. So you are not allowed to upload them to ChatGPT, whatever, to cross-check
Mm-hmm.
anything in terms of the proposals. So even you're obliged that after the evaluation ends, that you must delete any proposals that you have on your computers. So in terms of the cross-check, when the proposals are received, the commission checks for eligibility and all of these administrative procedures, so you don't have to worry about that. The only thing that you need to worry about is just to cross-check with the criteria and also fill in the comments for the excellence, impact, and implementation. But in terms of really using AI, it's not recommended. And not even uploading bits and pieces of the proposals. It's not allowed.
Thank you, Frosina, for this addition, because I think this is really coming up, this topic. So, as you might know, that now the numbers of applications really increased radically. So, we really have to find out something how to continue with proper evaluation. So, there was a question at Anna. I don't know if you see the chat because it's relatively a long question, but actually, it's mainly about this. Discrepancy between that, why is it so important how the application itself is written, but you can see then
Yeah.
the question.
What was my feeling that the application that I addressed previously, it was written in a purely academic paper style. Now, so it was written completely the way you would write and discuss academic matter. It was obviously made by someone predominantly from the faculty and academic people, and that is not the way the proposal for the projects should be built. Like even the topic itself and the question is relevant and important from both the academic perspective and the research project perspective. The way of writing is different, and that is like the weakness, or it is certainly not the strength that the project is written in the academic paper as you would do for the scientific journal, and that was the point.
So you also have to sell your idea in a way. It's not enough. And I think it's getting more and more important to see the impact. It was also mentioned how this exploitation part should be written properly, because what the impact of the project will be at the end, that matters a lot, and also the sustainability perspective. So evaluators look at it. Okay, now if you only finance for 3 years, will everything stop after these 3 years, or let's hope not. But then you shall somehow ensure this sustainability part. Thank you so much, Alberto, for the AI. So you also received a a link in the chat. So you can also just have a look at that. And I would now leave you to conclude in a way with some last remarks why you would recommend. I think it was, of course, more or less integrated in your interventions, but if you have also anything just to add as a last message, as a concluding message, or why you believe that it's really important for the others to become evaluators. Maybe we can again start with Frosina.
I would like for everyone to apply to be as evaluators, because in the past 3 years, I have been the only one from the Western Balkans in the evaluation panel. So I would really encourage that anyone can join, because I know that there is a lot of expertise and excellence in the Western Balkans that we can share. And then also this will prove quite valuable for the European Commission. I highly encourage you to take some time, fill in the profile, and always remember that there is always support in every step of the way when you apply. So there is no need to be nervous. There is no need to second guess yourself. There's always support when you're selected for this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rosina. Then, Elona, what do you suggest?
As Francina rightly put it, last year when I was selected, actually I was overwhelmed and a little bit freaked out, and I was very lucky. I was very lucky because in the briefing we had, I saw Francina's profile and I reached out to her because I was a novice evaluator and I had so many questions, and the European Commission project managers, policy officers, they didn't have time to, help me out. And Francina really guided me all the way of the process, and she really instructed me baby steps, cleared all my doubts, removed all my fears. So that is also a very perfect example of why we need more experts from the region, also to lift each other up. And one of the reasons why I was so also a little bit scared is because I felt this huge responsibility and weight over my shoulders that I am going to evaluate projects from some, top-notch universities, and what a great responsibility it is. And I didn't want to make any mistake whatsoever. So for all the participants in this call and everyone who will listen it further, being an evaluator you are influencing what scientific challenges are being tackled, what innovations should European Commission pursue. You are determining what cutting edge projects will receive support. So indirectly, you are actually shaping the research and innovation ecosystem in Europe, in the region, in the widening countries. So it is actually a great responsibility. And I invite everyone who wants to be an evaluator just to see it under this lens and to critically think what will be their contribution, but what will be the impact in the ecosystem overall.
Oh, what a nice thought, Elona. So please co-create the EU ecosystem because I think we need to move forward, and we need all these fresh minds all the time. Then what are your concluding remarks, Anna?
Well, I agree with everything what Francina and Elona said. I would just add a little bit that I could notice that my analytical skills were sharpened, and that it increased my confidence in project writing. And as I evaluated project by project, it increased my confidence in what I was writing as well as the evaluator. And we did not speak about consensus report groups enough, but consensus reports groups are very nice field for learning when you see where you agree with some of the experts, but it might often occur that you disagree with someone, and you disagree a lot. And it becomes a subject of negotiation and explaining your point of view. And I found myself in the consensus report groups where we were supposed to address only one point in difference, and I needed to explicitly say why that is 18 points and not 19. It was just one point, but it was important. So that sharpened my lenses in understanding what is important and what is not in project writing. So you gain a real perspective, not just on how the projects are evaluated, but on how different people see different things, how institutions collaborate, how ideas are framed or could be framed, and how impact is communicated. For me, working as the European Horizon or European Commission expert, it is truly an honor and it is a responsibility. So I do believe that if these people that join us today are like in doubt whether they should or should not apply, from my experience, I cannot find even one cons why not to do that, why not to apply.
That's
So
a rare thing.
when you evaluate something, you usually put pros and cons. And thinking about this panel, I could not find not even one thing that would be negative experience for which I would redraw myself from this point. So it is all yes.
Oh, okay, very encouraging. Thank you, Anna. And
Thank you.
Alexandra, what would you add to all these very positive messages?
I cannot say better than Telona what she expressed about responsibility of evaluators, because this is really responsible job and work, and because when you are in evaluate some proposal from the specific goals, it can happen that maybe you evaluate some of the greater European minds today in that area. And it is a little bit scary because you need to evaluate them, what they think, what they need to do in the future. So it's really a responsible job, and I will encourage everybody to try to do this. And now all of them, they have even advantage because they have this kind of introduction to the evaluation process. When I started, I didn't know anything about this process. I only just apply, and I have a small briefing and then go to the Brussels and see how everything is done. So they can learn now from experience from others. I didn't have that opportunity in the past.
No, I find it excellent that what Alona mentioned, that you are already in contact with Frozina. So this is really a team effort as far as I can see. And I don't know, Alberto, if you have some final words of encouragement for the colleagues here in the audience and for the region that you could share with us.
Yes, as I said during my presentation, and I encourage all of you to register, and hopefully, and maybe it takes time as our colleagues explained, but you will be selected.
That's, I think, a very positive message for the end. So be patient, but because it's worth waiting. And I really thank you for everybody who attended this meeting, but mainly for our speakers and panelists, because they shared a lot of insights. And I think they made us really eager to evaluate. I might also register when it will become possible. So please take this opportunity and learn from it. And thank you, everyone, for attending our meeting today. Goodbye and have a nice day.